I just clocked in for work and I'm heading into the department. The first thing we do every night is we meet with the evening shift. We have a huddle. They go over everything that they've done on their shift and give us an idea of what we need to look ahead to for our shift. We get a needs list, which is instrumentation and trays that we need to work on to complete the carts for tomorrow's surgeries. So I'm working on that right now, inspecting everything, making sure everything's clean and functional. When I'm done doing that, I make sure that the tray itself is clean, and then I add a tray liner in there and I add some chemical indicators. This is the chemical indicator that we put in our trays. That's it before it's been processed, and this is what it looks like after it's come out of the sterilizer. The indicator turns blue all the way over. We look for that to make sure it's full blue. Once I've inspected all the instruments, I'm ready to assemble the tray. So even though we might know the instrumentation by sight, the name could be a little different in the system, so we always check the number, match that up to our count sheet, make sure we're putting the correct instrument in the tray. And anything that is sharp or pointy, we put tip protectors on, which is what I'm doing here. This not only protects the instruments, but it also protects the surgical techs from being poked when they reach into the tray. There were some items missing, so I went and found a flash pan that had extra items in it, and I found most of what I needed, so I added that to the tray. And there were still a couple missing instruments, so I printed out a label, put a missing sticker on it, and the missing items label. That's the count sheet, print that out. That gets added to a bag that gets put in the tray. Now this particular tray is put into a container. So this is our rigid container. I'm inspecting the lid, making sure the seal is still good. Then I'm grabbing some filters, making sure the filters don't have any holes or cuts in them. Those go on. And then some filter retention plates also go on. I'm looking at the underside of those to make sure the gasket on them are good. Checking the container out, make sure there's no damage or sharp edges. And the tray gets put in, lid gets placed, latched, locks are put on. Next, I grab another tray, scan it into the system to create a count sheet, and I go to work inspecting that one. This tray has a lot of ringed instruments. Once those are inspected, they get placed on a stringer in order of how they appear on the count sheet. So it's a specific order of how the instruments are put on there that the surgeon prefers. When I'm done assembling the stringer, I make sure all the items are checked off on the count sheet on the computer, and then I count the items to make sure the numbers match. Go through and continue inspecting all the instruments in the tray. Again, make sure the tray itself is clean. Add a tray liner and chemical indicators. And then I can start assembling the tray. This particular item had some sharp points to it, so I had to grab some tip protectors. Everything gets placed in there according to the order of the count sheet. These items can either be put into a small bag or put into an instrument roll. I choose the instrument roll because it keeps the items separate. You're not dumping out a bag of multiple things. You can just grab a specific item when you need it. Put the stringer back into the tray, get the count sheet, get the label printed, stick it onto the tag, and get a container. The same process, inspecting, putting the filters. This tray has much different instrumentation in it. This is a power tray, so it has drills and saws that require a battery. Batteries are done up separately, so I'll just be inspecting the drills and the attachments here on this tray. Make sure everything functions as it should. If it moves, make sure it moves freely. Tapping any residual water left in the cannulated items and blowing air through them to make sure all the water is out. You don't want any moisture left in there for it to go in the sterilizer. I hold it in a towel because water will come out, and I don't want that to get on my hand in case it is dirty still. Sometimes going through decontamination, things can be missed, and you can blow or tap out water and it's dirty, so you want to make sure it isn't, pink or yellow. I'm counting, making sure I have all the items I need, checking them off on the count sheet, putting the indicators actually into that tray, printing the count sheet, getting it in there, and attaching the lid. Now that I've done all the containered items, and I didn't do all of these, the co-workers are in the background doing their thing as well. So this is a combination of things I've done and they've done. I'm loading the manifold up to get ready for sterilization with all the containered items. And then I'm going to go and take care of some other things that need to be done to finish making that load. And that includes wrapping an item. That power tray that I just did does not have a container. It has to be wrapped. Make sure that it's centered in my square wrap. I've chosen the right size wrap. Corner protectors go on the bottom and the top. Another tray liner towel goes over it. Chemical indicator on top. And start folding. That's steam indicating tape, so it turns color after it's been through the sterilization process. Tape the edges, and we put tape on all the labels to make sure they stay on. And just after midnight every night, we have to run a series of tests. This is called the Bowie-Dick test. This particular test is for the air removal. It tests to make sure that the sterilizer is properly removing the air from the chamber, which will allow the steam penetration. It takes about 30 minutes. And then the test pack is removed, and I open it up and read it. And it is just a card that is inside of the series of paper buried deep in the middle, and it turns completely purple when it's passed. It starts out completely yellow, so I have to look at it, make sure it's purple. Document the sterilizer number, the date, location, and then that gets scanned front and back side into the system underneath that particular sterilizer. Another thing we do every night is a washer test. These are our automatic washers. We put a test strip on each level of the manifold that goes in there, and we run a full cycle under the general instrument setting. Now I'm on the decontamination side, the dirty side. I'm pulling the test strips out of the washer, and it's clear. This is what it looks like when you start out. It gets put into the holder and it's clear when it comes out it's passed. Back to inspecting instruments. This is a cement gun. It's like a big caulking gun for surgical cement. Make sure the ratchet works properly and it functions as it should. Looking to make sure there isn't any cement in any of the screw heads or any other part of the tool. Once I'm satisfied that it works properly and is clean, I have to wrap it. Now that we have a full set of manifolds, we're ready to start a sterilizer load. I'm putting a biological test pack here on the bottom rack. This is the biological indicator here, and then the chemical indicator. This goes on the rack that we sterilize. It goes on the bottom rack upside down like this. It gets a load identification sticker placed on it so we know what load it came from. Once it comes out of the sterilizer, this biological gets taken out and gets put into a machine like this, an incubator, and it reads it to make sure everything in there is dead, all the biological gunk that's in there, make sure it has killed everything, and that's how we know that it's been a successful process. Once that's in place, I take my, basically it's a pricing gun, and I put load identification stickers on every item that is going to go into the sterilizer. It has the sterilizer number, it has the date, and it has the load number 1 of the day, 2 of the day, etc. I then scan everything into the computer, so there's a record of what's gone in the sterilizer. And now I make sure I look at all the cans, make sure every lock is in place and everything is as it should be, tucking the tags in so they don't get caught on the side of the door, checking the back side for locks. And I found 2 of the containers that had an issue with the lids, so I had to replace the lids. Making sure I replace the locks. Put them back on the manifold and we're ready to go. This particular sterilizer can take 2 of these racks that go in back to back. They lock onto each other, so when you pull them out the other side, you're pulling both of them until it reaches a certain point, and then it will unlatch, allowing you to remove only one and then going back and getting the second one out afterwards. Because we work at an off-site processing center, we prepare case carts, which is what that is I'm pushing down there. We prepare the case carts for several different facilities, all within our hospital system. So every case cart there has all the instruments needed for a specific doctor, for a specific surgery at a specific time. We need to make sure those are locked and a bag is placed over them, because now they're going to be transported to the facility where they're needed. We do this every night. One of my coworkers is doing the case picking, which she's getting all of the instruments into that case cart that's needed. And then if there's a lot of them, which this night there were, we'll help push them down to the loading dock where they'll get picked up around 5 a.m. So I just get behind 3 of them and start shoving them down the hallway. Sometimes the floor isn't very level and the carts get a little out of control, so there's a little crash there. But I finally made it down to the loading dock, and there's all the carts from earlier in the night. Now that power set that I did earlier, these are the batteries that are needed. So they were all on the charger, they're fully charged. Taking them off to get them ready to be sterilized, and I'm adding new ones in to be charged. The batteries go in a little bit of a different process. They're wrapped the same, minus the white tray liner, but they're a low temperature process, so it's a different biological indicator and a different chemical indicator that goes in there. It's also a different tape that we use to seal it up with. But it also turns color when it's been through the sterilization process, so you know. And just like the steam system, we put load identification stickers on everything. I'm putting the biological and chemical indicator in a pack, scanning everything into the computer. And this is our low temp sterilizer. So I'm going to load this, putting the test pack in there first. And starting a standard cycle. This facility does a lot of robotic surgeries, so these are robot arms. Inspecting these is a little different. There's some flush ports that need to be blown out, make sure there's no water in there, and I hold the head of the instrument in a white towel. So again, just like with the cannulated items, if there's any indication that it hasn't been cleaned properly, some pink color will come out or yellow color will come out. I'll know to return it for reprocessing. I was spinning the wheels there to articulate the head. Now I'm looking at the working tip of the instrument to make sure it's clean, and the cables that are attached that allow it to move in all directions, make sure those aren't frayed or damaged, and adding a little bit of oil onto the tip as well. So I'll go through and do this with a few of them, articulating the tip there, make sure it works properly. Coworkers came over for a little visit. We're having a little conversation while I'm working. I'm going to print out a couple of labels here, putting tip protectors on because we don't want the tips to be damaged, and we also do not want the tips to poke through the peel pack bag that it's going to go into, which is what I'm doing now, putting a label on a bag, putting an indicator in there, and putting the instrument into the bag. Those then get heat sealed on one end. And after that, they're ready to go in the sterilizer. We stand them up on edge in a rack, keeping them all nice and neat. And they'll be ready to sterilize once we fill up that manifold. Well, that's pretty much a whole shift in a nutshell. Did a quick overview of the basic things we do during the night. It's a lot of repetitive things, a lot of inspecting just tray after tray. Sometimes it's the same tray. We have a needs list that requires 6 of the same tray, so we'll start working on that. Sometimes it's just all over the place, whatever we need. It's a lot of taking time out to do the correct testing, make sure all the parameters are met. Just kind of bouncing all over the place here on overnight. It's a lot of fun, it's very challenging, it's very interesting, and I work with a great group of people. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this somewhat interesting. One thing actually I didn't touch on was the decontamination process. That we don't normally have to deal with much here on the overnight shift. That's usually all taken care of in the previous day and evening shifts. Sometimes there's a little bit of bleed over where we do have to go back there and wash some trays to get them through. But for the most part, we focus on everything on the clean side, everything that comes through the decontamination, through the washers. We deal with the inspecting and assembling and getting things ready to sterilize for the next day. So if I do have a chance to get back in decontamination at some point, I will definitely make a little video of that to show you how that process works. But other than that, that's our night. Thanks again. We'll see you in 2 weeks.